Hi, in this tutorial we'll learn how to use the Octane requirement update by Excel import tool, which was implemented as an external action sidebar plugin. This tool allows us to update and create requirements inside Octane via drag and drop of an Excel file. What are external actions? External actions is a solution that we've implemented which allows Octane to call outside code in order to execute different actions. And the sidebar plugin is just an implementation of an external action which allows us to display an HTML file inside Octane in a sidebar and also let the browser execute a JavaScript code which is referenced inside that specific HTML file. Now let's dive inside the folder that we get after downloading the tool. Here we are met with different files and we'll try to explain what the role of each of them is. First of all, we have those three index files. We have index.html, index.js and index.css. Index.html defines the structure of the page that will be displayed inside the sidebar. Index.css contains the styling, and index.js contains the code which executes the logic of the external action. In our situation, inside index.js is all the logic that knows how to read the Excel file and also send the data to Octane in order to create or update the entities. Next up, we have a bunch of pictures which will display inside the HTML file. We have the read_excel.js, which is a helper JavaScript file, which is also referenced inside the index.html and called inside index.js. And we have another file named config.js. This file contains two variables that we need to set, which modify the behavior of the tool, and we'll dive inside it a little bit later. And last but not least, we have the readme file, which contains the instructions of installing and running the tool. Now let's try to install the tool inside Octane using the readme instructions. If we open the file, we can see that we have the how to install section, which presents us step by step on how to do it. First of all, let's copy all the contents into a directory with a name of our choosing. Let's do exactly that. So we create here a directory. We'll call it requirement updater. Okay. And now let's just drag and drop all the files. We could also drag and drop readme.pdf, but it will not affect the tool in any way because this contains just the instructions, so we could let it outside if we want to. Okay. Let's see what the next step is. We need to modify the unique ID and the default parent ID variables that are present in the config.js. Those are the variables that I spoke about earlier. The unique ID represents the name of a field inside Octane, which will act as a discriminator, will act as a unique identifier for the tool to know if, first and foremost, a requirement exists in Octane, and if it finds it, then it will try to update it. If it searches for the value we have specified inside that field in a requirement and it does not find it, that means that the requirement should be created because it does not already exist. The second variable has the name default parent ID and it will act as a fallback value if we do not specify a parent inside the Excel file. So for creation purposes, Octane also needs a parent for an entity, for a requirement document. And in order for us to not need to specify the parent for each and every requirement inside the Excel file that we want to be created, we can set this variable, and for all the requirements that need creation and do not have this value specified inside the Excel, the default parent specified here will be used instead. Okay, so let's take a look inside Octane to see what we have. We go inside the requirements tab. Okay, and if we look inside here, we have two folders, folder 1 and folder 2. And under folder 1, we have 3 requirements that need updating. Okay, so let's try to choose folder 1 as a default parent, and we'll fill in the ID of the requirement folder. In our situation, 7007. Okay. Let's go inside the config.js file and fill inside here the value of the parent, default parent. In our situation, 7007. Okay, that's perfect. And we also need to specify a name for a field which will contain the discriminator for us. For ease of use, we'll create a custom field which will contain this information. We'll name it my unique ID UDF. The UDF part is mandatory in Octane, so for each and every custom field we need to specify underscore UDF at the end of the name of a field. Okay, we save this file and go to the next step. Next up, we need to archive the contents inside the zip file. That sounds easy enough. We just archive the directory we've just created. Okay, that's done. Next up, we need to go inside Octane. Alright. We'll go inside Octane, and how it says inside the README file, we need to go to the Settings and the External Action Editor tab. Okay, Settings and External Action Editor. Here we need to click on the Upload Actions button and select the zip file we've just created. Let's do just that. We click on the Upload Actions button. Okay. We select the zip file and hit open. The bundle file was uploaded, which means it's okay. Oh, up until now, we are good. And the last step is to edit the external actions JSON by adding this object inside of it. So we just copy paste it and put it inside here. I have already done that. Okay. What this JSON does is tell Octane how the tool should be displayed, what should be the title of the tool, entity type means on which entity type it will be available, in our situation requirements, so we specify the requirement here, on which views it will be available. We need it to be available in the list view, which icon to have, the URL, which is the most important part, which will tell us how to call the code and the HTML file where it lies. So the bundle URL variable tells Octane that it's an uploaded action, and what we need to change here is this part. This part tells the name of the zip and the folder which contains the external action. In our situation, we've named it requirement updater. So in this case, we do not need to change it. But if we named our folder my custom action, for example, that will mean that we need to specify here and replace this section with my custom action. This is very important. Okay, and the last section is the one that tells it to display it as a side panel in the requirements module. Okay, after we've done that, we click save and refresh the page. Good. Now we have the action set up in Octane. What's left to do is test it. Let's go inside the requirements tab. And now, if we look on the right side, we can notice that another panel has been added. The Import Excel. If we open it, we can see that it already allows us to drag and drop or click to upload an Excel file here. First up, let's see how an Excel file should look like. I've prepared one here, so if we open the test import file, we can see that we have multiple requirements here. The first line of the file should contain the name of the fields that should be updated or created inside Octane. So for our use case, we will need to update and fill out the name, the description, the owner, some UDFs to exemplify multiple types in Octane. So reference types, multiple reference types, number types, Boolean. It supports all of the types that are present in Octane. Tags, dates, and so on. Okay. We specified earlier that we need the unique identifier, the discriminator field. Here is how we use it. So we need one of the fields to be our unique identifier on the top row, and then we'll need to fill out a value for each of the requirements that we want updated or created. First up, let's create our UDF inside Octane because it is not created. We just chose a name for it. For this, we go to the Spaces section. In the Entities tab, we select Requirement Document, and then we click to add a field. We need to specify exactly the name that we chose. So in our situation, my unique ID UDF. We can give it whatever label we want. Let's name it discriminator. Discriminator field. Okay. And we need to specify that it will be a string field. Okay, let's add it. Okay, so the field is now created in Octane. Now let's fill in the values. So for that, we go to the requirements tab again. Okay. And we need to update those three requirements. Okay, so let's get inside each of them. Let's display the discriminator field that we've just created. Here, it's selected. And now for it, let's specify a value for each of those. So we need to update requirement 1, 2, and 3. So let's just use those values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first requirement will be 1, 2, 3, 4. The second requirement will be 2, 3, 4, 5. And the third requirement will be 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So what the tool should do is read this Excel file, look inside Octane for 1, 2, 3, 4. It should find our first requirement and update its values with the ones that are specified in the file. The same should be done for the second requirement and the third requirement. We now have two more requirements that are not present in Octane. How the tool will know that they do not exist? It will check for this UDF value, it will find none, and it will assume that those two requirements should be created. And another thing that we should consider is the parent for created entities. For the first requirement, we specified the parent. It will be 10006. Okay, so let's look for 10006. This will be folder 2. So first requirement should be created requirement 4 should be created under folder 2. For the requirement 5, we did not specify any parent, which means the default parent that we specified in the config file will be used. In our situation, that will be folder 1. Okay, let's test if the tool works correctly. We open the side panel, we drag and drop the file, and hit import. We wait a bit, and we can see that 5 requirements have been sent to Octane. Okay, let's just refresh it then. Okay, and it also refresh this page. Okay, so what we can see here. First of all, the 3 requirements that already existed were updated. So now if we go inside them, we can see that it added a new description, it filled up all the fields that we specified there, the reference fields, the multi-reference fields, the tags, and so on. Okay, that's nice. But what about the created entities? As we specified earlier, the 4th requirement should be created under 10006 parent, which is folder 2. Let's check that. We go inside folder 2 and we can see that the requirement is created. If we look inside it, we can see that it has all of the values that we specified in the Excel file. And for the 5th requirement, we need to check that it was created under the default parent, which is folder 1. And it was. We can see here that the 5th requirement was created under the default parent. And that's about it. If you want to learn further about external actions, you can check out our ADM help page on create external actions. And we also have a section about sidebar plugins, which contains demo data, some templates, some advanced guidelines, and so on.